Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Expansive CEO Podcast. I am your host, Hannah Chapman, and today we're going to talk to someone we have been in the same circles for a few years now, and we just haven't connected on the podcast yet. So I'm super excited for this conversation. And Daniel Knight is my guest today, and he's the Chief Executive Unicorn of Unicorn Universe and known as the 10X Unicorn. And he's on a mission to positively encourage, challenge, and inspire the world to unite as one, creating abundance and joy for all, which of course, anyone who's listened to this podcast for more than 5 minutes knows that that's exactly where my heart is as well. So I'm so excited to connect with you, Daniel, and get to have this time and this conversation and to talk about all the cool things we're going to talk about today. So thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit more of who you are, why you're a unicorn, and where all of that comes from?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Hannah. I really appreciate you having me on and also just that little reset we did of all the podcasts I've been on in my life. Nobody ever does that, but it's such a powerful thing to do. So thank you for that. And, as far as the unicorn thing is concerned, it's really all about recognizing the uniqueness of people, their individualism, and just seeing them for who they are. And we've all been through so many different things in our lives. And I don't look at myself as those things that have happened, but rather the things that I'm working on making happening and living in my future life and everything that I'm building towards. So I am here in Tempe, Arizona, just moved here about a year and a half ago, and I've been loving it so much. I came here for a work thing, a business event a couple years ago. And I was like, when I drove back to Utah, I was like, man, I feel like I just left home. And so it's really great to be in such a beautiful and warm state. And, it's just been amazing. The abundance mentality is one of the main things that I focus on. And so being here in Phoenix, it just feels abundant. There's so many people, so many things to do. The business opportunities and events and everything are just so magical and amazing and abundant. And so, it's really great to be here, and it's great to be here with you. And, I'm just really excited about the future more than anything and connecting with amazing people like you and anybody that's listening. So again, thank you. And excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to um, explain a little bit what you said at the very beginning, the reset, as you said. Um, Usually when I record, especially Tuesday episodes, for whatever reason, I always want to set an intention. And it's very, very, very important to me to be intentional. I have always felt that our words matter ever since I was a very small child. Like I have always been very intentional with how I choose my words, what I say, that I realize that our words have power in many, many ways. And so setting the intention, just so you listener, um, I always want our words, our conversation to be transformative and helpful and uplifting in whatever way it's meant to be to the listener. And so that is the intention that we set beforehand and take a nice deep breath. And it also helps just center the conversation, bring us all into presence a little bit more grounded to have a conversation from that place. So I am so happy that you mentioned that because I've never ever talked about that. I've never mentioned it on the podcast.
Really?
So, no, no, it's just a kind of a behind the scenes thing. But I think it actually works really well because while we, take that moment, a couple moments to kind of get grounded in the present, what we're going to talk about today is another thing that is also super important, which is to be in your future self and to really bring in that energy of what you want to create. And other side, quick, side note as well. Um, I didn't know, I hadn't realized that you were in Tempe now. And I'm so excited because we are actually, Tempe is not my hometown, but Chandler, Arizona is
Hmm.
my hometown. I was literally born and raised there, went to Chandler High School. So did my husband. Um, and we are in the process of moving back.
Yay. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So we will be in Mesa, which is a solid 15 minutes from wherever you are, in Tempe. And so I'm very excited. It feels like coming home. It is coming home for both of us. Our families are there. And that's I have heard that from so many people recently. I left before I became a financial advisor. My whole professional career for the most part has been out in Ohio and Cincinnati. And so I haven't had the chance to network and, go to professional events and different things in the Phoenix area. And everything I hear lately is just how special the entrepreneur community is there. So part of my future self is imagining all the possibilities of being there and getting to be in person with so many of the people that I've gotten to network with, virtually over the last several years, and getting to, be home and create that professional home too. So very cool. I'm very excited.
That's amazing. I love that. Yes, I love that so much. Yeah, I've spent a good amount of time in Chandler, and I don't know if you know Dave Waltzer, but he has his Wicked Awesome Happy Hour. If anybody is watching who's in the Phoenix area, you got to go to that third Wednesday of the month, every month. He's been doing it for 11 years.
Wow.
Um, so you'll be able to come and check that out and have a great time with his events. He usually does them in Chandler, and they're just a ton of fun. One of the main reasons, like, how I kind of got weaved into the whole business networking community here. It's funny because when I moved here, I'm pretty sure I knew more people here than I did in Utah because I at one point realized that most of the people I was surrounded with were not in alignment with who I wanted to be, who my future self was, calling me to be. And so I would come down here for different business reasons. One of my business partners lived down here. And so, I just spent a good amount of time and then went to his Wicked Awesome event, and it was wicked awesome. And just so many great, amazing people. Again, the abundance mentality. That's like one of his core principles is bringing people in who have a mindset of abundance. And so I just met a lot of people through that, and it's just so much fun. And I go, pretty much every month, and it's just a really good time. So, yeah, really excited about that. Really excited that you're moving here, and sounds like soon, like you've got it. Yeah,
Yeah, by the time this podcast comes out, it will literally be like in the next couple weeks. So we
that's
will
so
be there,
awesome.
yeah, in June. It's gonna be a big transition, and at the same time, like I said, like coming back home to family, and getting to build like the next phase, right?
Hmm.
It's a shift. Things are changing for everyone. We are in a time of transition, wherever you are. And so this, shift has been coming. We've known about it. We've been planning for it. And it's very interesting um, the way that things are happening in the world, in the US, right now, coupled with, this big life transition as well. It definitely feels like stepping into the next version.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, thank you. So we've danced around the topic a little bit so far, right? But let's really talk about it because before we started recording, I mentioned that, I've done a lot of like specific future self work, and, some of the coaching I've done and all of that over the last several years. And I really do credit a lot of what I'm doing now to that future self work that I did years ago. It's crazy to go back and look at some of my notebooks from, 2021, 2022, and see, whoa, like, oh, that's check mark, right? Like done, done, done. Like that's so interesting. And then I do future self work through, the financial planning process in different ways. But I realized literally as we were talking, like, oh, I haven't done like very many true like future self meditation type work with my clients, an X squared or expansive CEO. It's more the imagining forward. What do you want to experience? What do you want to do? We do a lot of that, but even getting even deeper into it, being more specific about it, being more, again, intentional about it, is so powerful. So I would love for you to share some of the ways that you do future self work, the things that are important to you about it. Yeah, just like, let's go. Let's talk about it.
I'm so here for it and really excited because I had no expectations, but I didn't expect us to get into this like this. But maybe I should have because it's definitely a huge focus. So I'm curious, and it sounds like you probably have, but have you read the book Be Your Future Self Now?
No, I don't think I have.
That's so great. I'm so happy to hear that. I mean, because like we're talking about it, and that's been easily the most impactful book of my life, I would say. And it's written by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He also wrote the book 10X is Easier Than 2X, along with Dan Sullivan. Uh, I like to call that like my number one because it brought me to Be Your Future Self Now, which is really my number one. But the two are such powerful books, and they all, tie back into the 10x unicorn thing. So,
Oh,
um,
beautiful. Yeah, I have read 10X is easier than 2X. Also, um, oh my gosh, what's the other one?
who not how.
Who Not How, is that also really solid. But what's the third one? It was the first one of the earlier books that he wrote.
Mm.
The Gap in the Gain. Oh my gosh, I can't
Oh
remember
yeah,
the name. That one also so powerful. I've used that a lot in my work. I did not know that he wrote Be Your Future Self Now. So on the list it goes. Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Yes, amazing. Very, very good stuff.
yeah, totally. And that I think that's a good way to lead into, this challenge that I did last year at the end of Q4. Benjamin Hardy led this rapid transformation challenge where you essentially take a goal, and this is kind of part of the future self work that I do, is taking a goal, say like a 3-year goal, and 10xing it, right? So you make it some crazy, ridiculous goal, which are the only types of goals that I like to live by. And then you reduce the time frame to like the end of the quarter. So take a 3-year goal, 10x it, and turn it into a 3-month goal, and it changes everything. You really start looking at all of the people, the systems, the processes, the mindsets, everything that you're doing in a completely different way. And that was one of the most impactful things that I had done. And it was through Be Your Future Self Now and really getting honed in on that and identifying that I wasn't. I wasn't being my future self. I was being my current and if anything, my past self, which
Mm.
kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning is I really don't like I don't mind talking about my story and things like that, but I so much more enjoy talking about the future self stuff and especially some of the things that I'm actively doing and encouraging other people to do. And so that framework of goal setting and then adjusting how you're approaching it has been massively impactful. And so I really like to apply that through my future self meditation that I do, which I will basically look at my lock screen. I made this future self image that I took a picture of myself standing like in front of my pool with my pool behind me and my grill behind me and some palm trees. And it's a great atmosphere. And I was like, what would this look like if I really committed to being the 10x unicorn future self all in 100%. Like if I did every single thing 100% right in full alignment with my future self and what he would be proud of, what would I look like? And I put it in a chat GPT and I was like, tell me how this guy would look. And so it gave me a couple versions and I got one that I was like, no. I'm like, that's intense. Like a year from now, I'm like, I don't know about that. But so I tried a couple others and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like that one was pretty good. So I, grabbed it and I went in my bathroom and I was comparing myself to my future self. And I was like, I guess I could. So then I started standing like my future self in the image and folded my arms in the way that he is in that and then meditated on it. So I like to use brain.fm. Have you ever used that?
No.
Super amazing. It's binaural beats music that some of it's like AI generated, some of it's produced music, but it just flows. There are no interruptions. You can run it for 39 hours and 54 minutes is what mine's currently at. And I've used it every week for like 72 weeks now. It tells
Oh.
me the streak. And so I'll turn that on, and I really like to put it onto creativity mode. And I'll put my headphones in, ideally, because it's binaural beats. And I'll meditate on that future self image and just think about, okay, who do I need to be today to become that person in the image? What are the things that I need to be doing? What are the things I need to stop doing? And more importantly, what can I do now or over the next couple of days, next week or whatever that will actually help me become that person, right? Whether it's and that's kind of what will help me determine even if it's a fitness related thing or a relational type of thing or a business or a revenue generating or a spiritual type of thing and just kind of taking that time. 7 minutes isn't a ton of time, but I usually end up going a lot longer than that. But that's kind of like my minimum. That's part of the 10x unicorn movement and challenge is to do a 7 minute future self meditation every day. And it's been easily like one of the most impactful things that I've done. And so I really just thoroughly enjoy that and even just led my first mastermind yesterday where I took people through that exercise. And I was kind of in my head about it at first because I've never done it where I was like leading it and well, I did one time. That was really good, but I don't know. I was just kind of like, is this really like landing for people? And I got a bunch of messages after, and people were like, that was amazing. Like, thank you so much. Like, that changed everything for me. And I'm like, wow, like, that's so great. And I'm like, well, duh, like Daniel, like this is exactly why you've been pouring so much into this is because that's been so impactful for you and why I do it every day and why I love it so much is because of the transformation that it creates in my mindset around not just who I want to be, but who I'm being to become that person, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely. I had such a similar experience with the money story meditation when I first started doing that a couple of years ago. I had done it with just individual clients a few different times and like the first time that I did it for a whole group um was like you say, like you can get in your head a little bit and it's, like, are they going with me? Or are they coming, are they having an experience? And then to hear the feedback after and to like the way that it impacts people. That one's an inner child meditation, that specific one that I have done many times is, going to talk to your inner 10-year-old child and have an experience with that. But same, it's so powerful, right? People have such a transformative experience, and then that then gives you, the practitioner, like that, like, oh, right, right. We need that. Um, Validation is the word that's coming up, and that's not a bad word. That's not a bad thing. Right? To know that, like, yeah, you're doing something impactful and you're now leading, leading from your own experience of having had a transformation in this area. Um, I love that. I have pure curiosity. Do you know your human design?
Not really, no. I should.
Yeah, I'm really curious. There were a few things that were like sparking, like, oh, I wonder. We can talk about that later. But yeah,
That's
that
good.
leading from the front, leading from experience, right? All of that is so important for other people to see that, oh, like you are making changes, you are making shifts, and if you can do it, I can do it in my own unique way, right? Which brings in the unicorn piece of like, it's not going to be the same. Their future self isn't your future self, right?
Right. Totally. Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because this whole 10x unicorn challenge is a series of like 10 different things that you're encouraged to do every day. And if you've ever done or looked into like the 75 hard program or other challenges like that, they're very aggressive and very much focused on you got to get it done, you got to reset. If you don't do it, then you got to reset. And I'm like, well, I don't align with that because that's such a motivation killer. And also people have their own experiences and their own journeys and their own goals with it too. And so like even to the point where Andy Frisella, who leads that, who created it, will say like you do any sort of deviation and it's not it. And mine's like this is completely the opposite. It's like you miss a beat, get back on your feet. Like, don't let that destroy your progress. Don't let that throw you off and feel like you lost. In fact, I have four different ways you can win the day. And the most important thing is not lying to yourself and not cheating yourself. And if you blow everything off, you have an opportunity at the end of the day to course correct and literally tell your chat GPT or I created this Notion page, which is super cool because you can hit a button and it'll tell you, hey, based on everything that you've got going on, maybe do this to course correct. Uh, and that if you do it, you can count it as a win, right? Now, if you don't and you completely forget and you don't end up doing it, then I still don't like calling it a loss. It's just a lesson. And so the goal being that it's less about this being like a challenge that you complete and more about a lifestyle that you embody when you're done with it. And so, however we get there, if we're doing all of the things every day, great, totally recommend it. That's my commitment is going for 100% for 100 days. At least the number one thing as a win. So that's the second way you can win. You have get all 10 done, and that's a 10x unicorn win. You get your number one thing done, and that's a win. You course correct, and that's a win. You completely forget about it and completely wake up the next day and you're like, oh man, I just blew it off entirely. Well, reflect on it and dig in a bit. Future self meditate is like the number one recommendation with that is why were you doing it in the first place? And maybe that why wasn't strong enough. And so spend some time focusing in on it and learn a lesson from it. And that's still a win. And pick back up and keep on going.
The maybe your why wasn't strong enough hit.
Hmm.
Like that actually feels like that's the whole thing. When we want to commit to something or when we make a commitment and we're like not feeling it, like, oh yeah, reevaluating the why is like such an easy like simple, like it seems very obvious, but maybe is not communicated often enough. Like what was your why? And if it is like, oh, wait, no, this is actually really important to me. Okay, that's good. But if it's not, then yeah, find something else that is like that important and impactful.
Yeah, totally. Um, and it's funny because as you're saying that and I'm saying that, I created this document that I give to people. The goal is 10 days before you start the challenge to really go deep. Spend those 10 days building some of the habits so that it's there so you can hit 100%. But there's a document called Set Up for Your Success, and it digs in deep to all of those things, what your goals are, who you want to be, your future self, the actions you're going to take, and the breakthroughs you're going to make, and all of those little things that I feel like really create the internal motivation to really make it happen, to stay on top of it. And then you have that document to reflect back on. I didn't do it going into this, actually. I did it when I did the last challenge, but I didn't really think about it as something I needed to do. But as we were talking about it, I'm like, you know what? I think I do. I think I need to do that. So
Mhm.
I've got my future self meeting on Saturday, and I'll probably spend some time on that. I'll probably do it today or something, actually, because it feels
Love
like
it. Love it.
right.
Right. Spark in action already.
Yeah.
Uh, the other thing that was coming up for me as you were talking is the things like the 75 hard and anything else. 75 hard is a good example because it's so people know what it is now. Like I feel like it's pretty popular for a lot of people. That kind of all or nothing is actually like the problem that they have just in life
Mm,
all the time, right? It's like either I'm all in or I just completely fall off the wagon and don't ever get back on. And people don't learn to give themselves grace.
yeah.
And so I am of that same mind as you that that stuff doesn't work for me. Of like if Ricky Bobby is coming up Talladega Nights, like you're the first or you're last, right? It's like no, there's not first or last, right? Like it's not everything beyond first place is a loser.
Mm,
um that sort of mentality just drives that same behavioral pattern. It doesn't help you necessarily break patterns. I'm sure there are a subset of people who that is, right? That is the way that they kickstart, they start new habits, they, do the 75 hard and then they find the things that they can continue with lifestyle change wise after. So it's not to say it's not never the right option for people, but I think that's a smaller subset of the population than people who need to learn how to incorporate changes into a life that they already live, right? If you're a parent, if you are a caregiver of any sort, if you run a business, like there's so much stuff that comes up in our lives um, that you can't control everything. And so if you have this, like, I love that concept of having four different ways to win. That you can give yourself grace and build from your wins rather than feel like you're always, ooh, you know what this does, Daniel? This goes straight back to gap in the gain
mm, yeah, it does.
because you're giving yourself like, oh, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning. You're not so focused on the gap all the time.
100%. Exactly. And maybe that, inspired some of how that was created because you're right. There is no loss if you can gain from it. I don't look at any experience that I've had in my life as a loss. And operating from the gap and the gain mentality, especially during times of challenging situations, like in the middle of it, has been such a powerful way to maintain a positive attitude and continue on with what I had set out to achieve. And even if, like, that something may just be a season, you can experience it and enjoy it during that season, knowing that it might come to an end, knowing that things might change, but recognizing that it's still going to be good. You're still going to learn something from it. It might be hard at times, but you still can always know that you're going to gain from every situation and therefore not let it affect you in too much of a negative way, almost in a negative way at all. If it's affecting you in a negative way, it's likely because you haven't learned the gain from it. And even if we haven't learned that gain, it's an opportunity to recognize and reflect on it and then figure out what the gain is, even if it's just the fact that you're doing that.
The fact that you learned, oh, this is not the best route.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, there's a better way. And I figured out this is not the easiest route. Let's try something else. Um, and for anyone who's not familiar, one, you can go, I listened to the audiobook, but you can buy the book and read it. You can listen to the audiobook. Hi, highly, highly recommend. A super easy read or listen. And there were concepts in there that just the way that Dr. Hardy like lays things out, it's like it's so clear. It's so clear. And if you're not familiar with the concept, what it's based on is, when Dan Sullivan, who is the founder of Strategic Coach, which is one of the earliest like entrepreneurial coaching um, systems, like he started in the 70s, I think, right? Like he's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
And he's in his 80s now, I believe, late 70s, early 80s, something like that. Dan Sullivan is.
Yeah.
Um, but he noticed that he was working with, these high performing entrepreneurs, business owners, and they would lay out these goals. And then, they would meet again a quarter later or 2 quarters later, and they would have hit or surpassed their goals, and they were still pissed about it. And it wasn't good enough, right? And it was like, yeah, but I hit that goal, but I'm not here at this other more ultimate goal. And so what Dan Sullivan was realizing was that those particular business owners, they were having more health issues, more mental health issues, more, just like overall not being as successful in business as they could because of this. Like you're always looking at the gap. You're always looking at what could be that's not here yet.
Yeah.
And always measuring yourself against that imaginary horizon line, basically. And so what he started doing, the shift that he invited them into was, okay, you're not $1 billion company yet, but you're $100 million company. And where did you start? Right. So let's look at the gain. Let's look at where you were and where you are now. And now you can see that that gap is actually very small compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
And so when we measure the gain, again, we're building upon what we've already done, all the experiences we've had, all the lessons we've learned, rather than constantly moving the goalpost on ourselves. And it's a whole shift. It's a wholesale mindset shift. Um, that, I mean, for me personally, it makes things feel so much more joyful, easy. The like finding gratitude is so much easier for everything. And when I am in gratitude, when I am in sufficiency, I can then therefore see the opportunities for abundance so much more easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a powerful concept. Um, so yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to something you've mentioned a couple of times so that you can tell people more about this too. You said you have a date with your or your future self day on the
Yeah.
weekend. So,
Yeah.
because if someone's listening to this and they haven't ever like thought of this concept, how do you implement it? And what do you do on your future self day?
Yeah. So it's a once a month thing that I committed to. And essentially, I would say if you haven't read the book, Be Your Future Self Now, that'd be a good one to read leading up to your Saturday or even on Saturday. Um, and in that, right off the bat, first chapter, it talks about Mr. Beast and how he actually recorded this video of himself speaking as his future self, accomplishing all of the goals that he wanted to accomplish. And then he scheduled it for a date out in the future and made a commitment to, hey, by this day, I'm going to achieve these things. And it's going live to my, however hundreds of thousands of subscribers he had, or tens of thousands at that time. And that he was like, I'm going to get to, I think it was 100,000 subscribers that he was shooting for after his first future self video that he recorded. And I was like, That's like chapter one. I was like, pause. And I went and I recorded my own video, scheduled it out in advance. And and so then what I would do is I would actually just rewatch that video. That was kind of like my ritual. I don't do that anymore, actually, because this future self meditation has become my kind of kickoff for the whole thing. But it really is just kind of easy going with the flow. I do review like certain metrics and KPIs that I've identified to keep track of every month just to reflect on where I'm at and where I was and where I'm going. And so, there's definitely a good amount of structure to it, but for the most part, it's kind of free flowing. And, I have the time blocked off. It's in my calendar. There's sometimes I have to move it to the next week, but I don't ever skip it. And I usually end up doing it every Saturday. And I'll, do the future self meditation that I talked about and then really just work on things that support me becoming my future self. Like it's committed to that. And really, if it's a project, I am less about doing project oriented things because there's a lot of deeper work that needs to be done mentally that I feel like is really important to do. So I really like journaling as my future self. And so I'll journal as like a reflection from where I'm at now to where I was the last time I did my future self meeting and some of the things that I've done in that time frame and the progress that I've had. And then at the end of it, I like to journal out into the future. I'll pick a specific day, kind of like Mr. Beast did, and write it out, write a journal entry as if all of these things had already happened. So I've got this event in October called Unicon, and that was one of the more powerful future self journal sessions that I did was I was like, man, walking up on stage with 1,000 people at the event and everybody was cheering for me. And I'm so excited that, I was on top of everything because I stayed in alignment with my 10x unicorn future self and, really stayed focused on being prepared and well put together in advance and getting all the things done months ahead of schedule. Like, I'm so proud of myself for doing all of that. And it is because of this. And I talked through potential obstacles and barriers and challenges that I need to overcome between the guy writing it and the guy I'm writing it as. And and that's been one of the most impactful things with it. And so I almost don't allow myself to move on with my day until I do that part is, journaling as my future self and as that person accomplishing all of these different things. So that's kind of the framework. From the start, reflecting on where I was and what I feel like I need to work on that day, and then working on it, and then reflecting again on who I'm becoming, and then letting that set the stage for, the next month or week or however long it is. And now I do that future self journal almost every day as part of the 10x Unicorn Challenge. So, yeah, so there you go.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear more about Unicon in October.
Okay.
So tell us more about what that event is, um, where it's going to be, why would people want to go? What are all the things that are happening there?
Yeah, so it's going to be exceptional. It's going to be a magical 3-day convention in Phoenix, and it's on October 10th, 11th, and 12th. You can check it out at unicon3.com. And it is really designed to be an experience, a 3-day weekend experience that takes people through a journey of different powerful speakers and workshop facilitations and we focus on golden connections, which are those single connections that can change your life, be it personal or professional, but really open doors to unlocking exponential growth. And so Unicon is designed to be a platform for our members, for unicorns who want to get their name out there in a bigger way. If they want to have a vendor booth, they want to speak, they want to sponsor, they want to attend as an attendee and, maybe get VIP tickets, whatever it is that people are really looking for. The focus is wealth solutions and access, with a specific theme of technology for this year. So again, it's the third year that we're doing it. And really, anybody who's looking to grow their network, grow their business, grow their relationships, that's who it's for. And I'm really excited about it because, like I said, I've already been putting a ton of work into it. And I've been working with some really big, like sponsor connector type of people who see sponsorship decks and event details and things like that all the time. And I just had a meeting with somebody last week who he works with Coca-Cola, for example. And he told me, he's like, Daniel, like, I love your deck. I love your event. I love everything that you're doing. He's like, I don't work with almost anybody that has everything this well put together this far in advance. And so, why? Well, maybe it has something to do with the Future Self Journal session I did in January, where I wrote all of this out and made a commitment that I was going to be on top of it regularly and work on it every day and make sure that we deliver the absolute maximum amount of value and experiences for people who are there, for the attendees, that the sponsors get the value, the vendors get the value, that everybody has a good time. Because we like to say that we like to have fun, but we have fun doing serious business.
Mm. Because your why is super strong.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm. So, and I knew this about you already, right? But you are a connector, a facilitator of connections, helping people grow their network and their business, um, in really authentic ways, right? Like not in I think most of us who are, most people listening, are business owners, entrepreneurs, right? Like we've all done the networking that like is like blah, like
Yeah.
why am I meeting this person? Why did you introduce them to me? We've all had that experience, um, and that's just not what you get.
Not. It's like I said, it's not just personal or not just professional, but it can also be personal. And sometimes those connections are the ones that we need the most. And so I definitely like to know where people are at and what they need, if it's a professional or a personal connection.
Mm. And so when tell me more about the connection then between the 10x Unicorn Challenge and Unicon and like the ecosystem and where can people plug in?
Yeah, absolutely. So the connection really is with connection. A huge part of the 10x Unicorn program is actually one of the items is daily collaboration. So who are you collaborating with? You identify like that number one who that can really create exponential results in your life. And I like to attribute that strategy to who is that golden connection for you that could actually help unlock those doors. And so within Unicorn Universe, part of it is identifying and making golden connections. There's this whole moving framework, which is mission, vision, values. So what are yours, right? Objective. What is your objective with making the golden connections? The value that you can provide that person, identifying who they are, and then nurturing the relationship and growing together. And so applying that framework to the 10x Unicorn program of working with your collaborating with your golden connection every day really is how you nurture it and also kind of how it ties together. So the two are definitely their own thing in a way, but also 10x Unicorns is part of the Unicorn universe as a sub community where I've included the Unicorn membership with the 10x Unicorn membership because the values of being a unicorn, the unicorn DNA, is essentially a requirement in a way to be part of the 10x Unicorn group. People who are abundant minded, they value collaboration, they are reciprocal, they want to create a positive difference in the world, and they are purpose driven to make things happen and are actively focused on it. And not everybody resonates with the 10x unicorn mentality, which is really like going at it in a completely harder way. And so, that's kind of how they tie together. And there are definitely people who are in, both. And they're both mine that I've built for quite some time now. And yeah, so as far as, how people can get involved, the whole thing's right now, it's all tied in through the 10x Unicorn uh, program. The QR code, I think, will take you there. 10xunicorn.win. That's my domain. It's the coolest one like
That's
ever.
awesome.
Right? So I would say go check that out. There's a manual I just created last weekend. That's like this 50-page document of what it takes to be a 10x unicorn and what the challenge is and a bunch of other tools and resources in that. Otherwise, you can always go to our unicornuniverse.io website, and that'll tell you more about the unicorn universe. And yeah, I mean, and that's the way. But, as a freebie, as a free gift to anybody watching, I would say be part of the unicorn community, and you can get free access to that where we've got a level that you can see things, and you can take our Becoming a Unicorn or DNA course all for free and get into some of the different things. If you go to, and now I'm 3 or 10 calls to action, community.unicornuniverse.io, and see it for yourself. There's no charge to do that, and you can, connect with other people, see the magic that is Unicorn Universe, and yeah, and that's probably the best way to really dip your toes in the water or dip your horn in the rainbow.
Love it. Yeah, all of that, all the links will be down in the show notes. If you're listening and you're really looking for that community that's going to really work for you, like go check it out. Go attend a meeting, see what you think. And yeah, check out the Unicon, all of that. So I will be in Phoenix, so I will hopefully get to see you there. I would love that. And Daniel, thank you so much. It was so good to have you on the podcast finally, and get to talk to you. And you have definitely re-inspired me to, do some of that future self um, meditation, and especially again with this big life transition that's happening. There's so much opportunity to really lean in to that. What do we want to create next? So thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hannah. I appreciate you too.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and be sure to like and subscribe. And again, if anything resonated with you from this episode, I would love to hear from you. Email me at Hannah, HANNAH, at expansiveceo.com, and tell me about it. And if you're ready for your greatest expansion, you can find ways to work with me at expansiveceo.com and at x2wealthplanning.com. That's X, the numeral 2, wealthplanning.com. So until next time, remember that there is enough. You are enough. And your birthright in this lifetime is to be expansive.